Section 8.2, 0 and negative exponents.
Oh, this was hard.
Not here.
Obviously.
Here somewhere.
You will have to remember the rules from 8.1. Very short here. Multiply with the same base. What do we do with the exponent? Add the exponents. Rule 2, if you raise a power to a power, what do you do with the exponents? Multiply them.
Alright, Steve Hopper.
So, those obviously are not going away. You'll continue to have to know those for the rest of the chapter and the rest of the school year. So, today we learned 2 more rules for 0 and negative exponents. These aren't so much rules, it's just things that you do in order to simplify your problems. The rule for negative exponents, if you have x to the negative 2, we'll actually make that 2 to the negative 2. So your base is 2, you have an exponent that is negative in this case. So all you have to do, it's very simple, to make that positive, you move it to the bottom of the fraction. Now it becomes positive. So if you have a negative that's in the top, you move it to the bottom. If you have a negative in the bottom, move it to the top. Now you can do 2 squared, which is 4. So your final answer there, 1/4. Doing the same problem, if it started off 1/2 to the negative 2, we need to make this exponent positive, so we have to take this whole thing up to the top. And now you have 2 to the positive 2, which is what?
4.
So 4/1 or just 4. So if there's nothing, if you have to take everything to the bottom, then you leave a 1 up at the top. We'll do some examples where you will leave stuff at the top. That is the rule, though. That's what you do. If you have a negative in the top, take it to the bottom, and vice versa. The rule for 0 is pretty simple. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So what would be x to the 0 power? That would equal 1. 2 to the 0 power. That would equal 1. 2044 to the 0 power. 1. Would be 1. 3x squared, y to the 3rd, z to the 4th, all of that to the 0 power. 1 equals 1. The only exception to that is 0 to the 0 power.
That's
Undefined.
What if, it's trying to
That's the only exception to the rule. 0 to the 0 power is undefined. What was your
what
question?
if it's like 3x to the 0 power?
Anything to the 0 power is 1. You said 3x to the 0,
And then there's one after that,
and then y to the 0.
or to the 3.
Okay? That's not a bad question. So if you had y to the 3rd after that, what here is being taken to the 0 power?
Just x.
Just the x. So this is 1. The 3 is still a 3. The y to the 3rd is still y to the 3rd. This just becomes a 1. So your answer to that would be 3y to the 3rd. Anything to the 0 power
So we don't need
is
to
1.
x.
So what?
You don't need to put the X.
Not in the answer, you wouldn't need to, if that were the problem. Just remember, 0 is the only exception, because you will have that in the homework today. 0 to the 0 power is undefined. So we will just do some examples, maybe some homework problems, and then you'll have something to do on your own. We've already done a lot of the problems there. We have 5 to the negative x. 5 is being taken to a negative exponent. How do we make it positive?
Put it at the bottom.
Bring it to the bottom. So our answer would be, what's going to be on top?
1,
1 over
5 to the negative X.
5 to what?
Negative X on the X.
Positive x. That's why we took it down, to make it positive. And then you just leave that. Can't do anything else to it. If you have a fraction, that's another good example there, like 1/3. All of that is raised to the negative 1. So what you want to do with that, you can do it two ways. You could do 1 to the negative 1 over 3 to the negative 1. So we're just taking that into both things there. So what has to happen with this part? The top. We got a negative exponent in the top. What do we have to do?
Multiply.
Do what? It already is a fraction. Where does this have to go to make it positive?
You go on the bottom,
Goes to the bottom. What do we do to this to make it positive?
go to the top.
So it simply becomes 3 to the first over 1 to the first, which is simply 3. The other thing you can, well, it's really not though. It's simply, if you have a negative in the top, put it in the bottom, negative in the bottom. The other thing you can do here, those are just going to flip. Since that's negative, that's going to go to the bottom, that's going to go to the top. Your answer is going to end up being 3 over 1 or just 3. Anytime you've got a negative exponent outside of a fraction like this, this fraction is just going to flip. That'd be the easiest thing to do rather than doing it the way we did the first time. Just know it's negative, the fraction has to flip. So if we have 5x to the negative 2, what's being taken to the negative 2?
X.
The x. So do we need to do anything with the 5? No, it stays right there. What do we have to do with the x to the negative 2?
But it'll be multiply.
But we don't have to put 1 because what's in the top?
1.
What else is in the top there?
What do you mean with us in the top?
We got 5
Okay.
and we got x to the negative 2. We said this needs to be moved. What's left in the top?
One,
The X.
5.
The 5. The 5 stays right where it's at. We move the x to the negative 2 to the bottom so that it becomes positive. Two x to the negative 2, y to the negative 3. So, what needs to be moved?
The 2 and 3. And the X.
This part. So what's going to stay right where it's at?
2.
The 2. So we now have 2 in the top, and the other 2 things have to be moved to the bottom so that we can make them positive. 2 over x squared y cubed.
Is that just that's it, the problem right there?
Nothing else you can do to it. You cannot leave a negative exponent in your answer. So this is all we're doing today is moving stuff. There's not really any figuring or calculating to do. You're just moving.
That's not too much.
Next time and the time after and the rest of the chapter, yeah, there'll be a lot more stuff you do. Right now, we're just trying to focus on if you have a negative exponent at the top, you put it at the bottom. That's, to me, that seems pretty simple. There is no calculating, no figuring, just moving stuff. we have 5a raised to the -2. What you're going to want to do here is use rules from section 1. Both of the things in here have to be taken to the -2 power. So you're going to have 5 to the -2, a to the -2.
So you're gonna have to move.
So what, everything up here, this is a negative exponent and so is that. So we have to move all of that. So what's going to be left on the top? So we put a 1 over 5 squared a squared. We can simplify that a little bit. What is 5 squared?
Yeah, 5/25.
So we have 1 over 25 a squared. One over d to the -3n. So d is being taken to a negative power. So how do we make this become positive?
The B's cube, D on top. And
And we just move it up to the top,
And then you have to put it in.
and it becomes d. Yeah, the -3n is considered one exponent. So you move it up to the top, and it becomes positive. You will also use the rules from last time, from last section. If you have 3 to the -2 times 3 to the -3, and we'll make it 3, we'll make it -1. So you are multiplying with the same base. What do you do with the exponents?
You multiply. I mean, with the exponent, yeah.
Add.
So this would become 3 to the -2 plus -1. You're adding these two numbers together. What would that give you? We would have 3 to the what?
Cube.
-3, like you said.
And
And then we have to make that positive. Where does it have to go?
underneath
To the bottom. So what's on top?
1.
1 over 3 cubed. And what is 3 cubed? 27. Two to the -3. That's being raised to the -2. Sometimes using the rules from section 1 will eliminate the negatives and you don't have to do anything else. That's power to a power. What do you do with the exponents?
You got time. I mean,
You gotta multiply these two together.
it becomes positive 6.
We have 2 to the 6th. Gets rid of all the negatives right there for us. And what is 2 to the 6th?
64.
64. Let's look over at your homework on page 459. We'll do 3 through 10. And 14 through 44 even. I will do 3 through 10 with you, and you'll have the rest of those to do on your own. So number 3, we have m to the -2. This problem's just like this in our notes. So we have m to a negative exponent at the top. What do we need to do it?
Bottom.
So what's left on the top?
1.
So your answer is 1 over m squared. Number 4. Yes.
You just did your 7.
Sorry. We'll have to do 7 if we get there. So we'll go back to 4 and 0 to the negative 4 power. Don't worry about the order, just, actually, if you want, just make that one 3, and then we'll do 7, 3 when we get there. So we have 0 to the negative 4. How are we going to make that positive? Put it on the bottom. So what's left on top? 1 over 0 to the 4th. So what is 0 to the 4th? Put that in your calculator. 0. So what you end up with is 1 over 0. And if we type that in our calculator, what do we get?
0.
Clear try. One over 0. Wait,
4.
what? 1 divided by 0 in your calculator. What did it say? The error. It's undefined. That's what I needed you to say. You can't ever have 0 in the bottom of a fraction. Number 5.
Undefined.
0 to the 0, we already said undefined. Number 6. 6 times 3 to the 0. So what is 3 to the 0?
0.
It would be 1, so you basically have 6 times 1,
6.
which is 6. Number 7, which is number 3. 3 to the negative 1. How do we make that a positive 1?
Put it move to the bottom.
So what's left on the top?
3 and 1. 3 over 1.
What's left in the top?
1.
1 over 3, and it's now positive. You don't even have to put that. It's just 1/3 for your answer. Number 8. 3c to the negative 5th. So what's being taken to the negative exponent?
C.
Just the c. So the 3 stays right where it's at, which is in the top. And we move the c to the 5th to the bottom so that it becomes a positive exponent. Number 9. A to the 5th and b to the what?
Negative 8.
Negative 8.
So what needs to be moved here?
The negative 8. And then B.
B to the negative 8. What doesn't need to move?
Negative 5.
So that a to the 5th stays on the top. B to the 8th is moved to the bottom. Now it's positive. Again, that's all you can do. Number 10, 1 over 2x to the negative 3. So what's being taken to the negative 3rd?
2x.
2x, because it's in the parentheses. So how do we make the 3 a positive? So what did we say is being taken to the negative 3rd? So then that whole thing has to be moved. So it's 2x to the positive 3rd. Now we have to use rules from last section again. We have to cube the 2 and the x. 2 cubed is 8. 8x to the 3rd. Final answer. So go ahead and work on 14 through 44. I am here to answer questions as you go.